Okay, yeah. So as we went through the whiteboard, writing down the commands versus the traditions in the church, question often comes up as we go through that, like how do you get the balance between loving the people well, but also like uprooting things that we hold on too tightly to, that are traditions. And do you have any insight into like ways to balance that well and like love people through that? And be gracious.
I think I feel a little bit hypocritical in this one because I didn't have to do it. Like I started from scratch, the second time around rather than trying to turn something, which is really difficult. But if I were to try again to take like an existing congregation that's used to doing things a certain way, number one, we have to establish the authority of the Word of God. Some of us come from those types of churches where we know the Word of God, reigns supreme. This is our authority. But most people don't. And you have to realize that. So they're just coming together and going, I like this, I like this, I like this. And they're not really Word of God people. So for some of these churches, it starts with going, no, this is everything. God's thoughts are so much higher than His. It starts with a sense of, like I say in the book, like what would please God most based upon this book. Okay, to just challenge people to say, okay, just erase everything and think what would please Him most, because I think even that simple question is not on the forefront of people's minds. Not only is it not on the forefront, some people have never thought it. What would please Him the most? What kind of gathering would He love? What did He think of when, if He had it His way, how would our church? We have to start with those things and to challenge people and to have them almost study it themselves. If you can, to say and that's why that whole, what do you call that? that you did, exercise, thank you, that you did with the commands and traditions is so good, because you're thinking, okay, yeah, this, okay, yeah, here's commands, and you're like, whoa, I didn't think about that. But these things are commanded, and it's always good. For me, people try to tell me certain things, and you're always a little bit leery of people's agendas. But then when you study the Word for yourself and go, yeah, that has to be the authority, and you start looking at what does please God the most and help people come up with those answers, and to help people think through, look, if these are the priority, and how much time does the average person give, to things of God? What you show me how to fit this in. It's just not possible with all these things. So what do we have to prioritize? You show me how to do it. It's like this one time, this guy got so angry at me, total stranger, just going, look, I read your book, and I just want like half an hour, maybe an hour of your time. And I'm like, I can't. He goes, how can you not give me this? And I'm like, you do the math for me. If everyone who read a book of mine wanted an hour's time with me, how long would it take for me to do that? Just calculate it out for me, And it's just some people, they don't think it through. And so sometimes it's like, here, put it on paper for me. Show me how we're going to do this, because this is really the priority of God. I'm trying to come up with a plan, and I've got to get people to love each other like this. That 30-second greeting time isn't going to cut it. I'm trying to get them to use their gifts. This is important. We need everyone to operate in those gifts. How are we going to do it? Show me how we're going to do it, because I have to obey this. you know, and so sometimes it's putting it into their hands through the scriptures. Gosh, but it is really hard to get rid of things that people are accustomed to. Gosh, I feel like I'm just like randomly just throwing out thoughts because there's so many specifics that people will have, and because I haven't done it, I'm not the best one to answer that question because I don't know how it can be done. I will say this though, if you are going to pursue the priorities of this book, the commands of this book, and that becomes your greatest desires, like I must go with what God prioritizes and we must obey these commands, you need to understand that depending on the church you're part of, a huge group of people will leave. I don't know how you get around that, because people didn't come with the mentality of, man, I'm going to go gather with people and I am going to give to them and I am going to love them and I'm going to be, you know, I want a deeper relationship with them than I do even an earthly family. So you start to pursue that, it's almost like a bait and switch. Like, well, I didn't sign up for that. It's almost like going to a movie theater and suddenly a personal trainer shows up that day. Okay, everybody, you know, get on, you know, give me 100 push. You're like, what? I didn't sign up for this. I was going to, you know, watch the Avengers. You know, he's like, no, we're going to become Avengers. You know, it's just like, it's like the people are going to leave and go, that is not what I signed up for. I came because I wanted to be blessed by someone. I want to hear the word of God, and I want to walk away, you know, being a better person and feel like a better person, and I wanted my kids to get something. None of this, you know, love each other deeply from the heart. Love them like Christ loved me. Look, Christ went to the cross for me. You're telling me to do that for these people? That's not what I signed up for. So just understand that going in, that this isn't going to be what everyone who goes to church or goes to a service really signed up for. And so you're going to lose that. You're going to lose a good chunk of people. And if you're not ready for that, which sometimes you can think you are, but then once it starts happening, it hurts so badly when people you've known for years are walking away and you're like, even again, I did things completely wrong, but it hurt when people you love start leaving. And I thought I was ready for it, and I wasn't.
So another thing that comes up a lot as we go through the whiteboard, a big thing that we talk about often is the sermon. Mm-hmm. And so why in We Are Church is there no real sermon when we gather, and how do you ensure that people get adequate teaching in this model?
Yeah. I guess there's not a sermon in our traditional sense, which is like for most of us in our church, we're used to a 40-minute, between 30 and 45 minute, you know, like we came up with this time sermon where one person speaks, same person every week, or same 2 or 3 people every week. We do more of a Bible reading where everyone is on a reading plan, and so there's almost like daily sermons in a sense that we give to one another, and that pastors are saying, gosh, did you read 2 Corinthians 10 this morning? Like that was huge. And we just start sharing. I mean, it's the same thing I would do up front, but now I'm doing it one-on-one. I'm doing it as I'm jogging with someone. I'm doing it, you know, with my children, with my wife, with whoever. It's like, gosh, we're sharing it all week long. So they've heard several sermons from each other. And so I believe that communicates better than that monologue. And the proof is just by the way when people start verbalizing the Word of God, it shows me that they know it. And so it's more just kind of that need. It's almost like, let's say every Sunday it used to be that I'm this fitness guru, and everyone shows up and in this large setting, okay, come on everyone, let's do 10 jumping jacks. All right, that's great. Everyone do 5 push-ups now. Okay. And that's just all they knew was like a quick workout routine from me. And what I'm seeing in our people is every day they're getting that to a higher level. And so when they come in Sunday morning, it's like they're already ripped, and it's like, let's just eat. It's like they've done so much. It's not this pressure to get them into shape spiritually. But because we say, look, this is where it's going to come from, is your time alone with God, your time with the body throughout the week. I just feel like, gosh, I see it spiritually in them. I see the spiritual fitness of the people. And we're all after the same thing, right? You want people to know the Word of God and to be living it out. And so that's the goal. But we've made the sermon, the goal, rather than the changed lives and the discipleship that happens. And so when the day comes when I go, this isn't working, a sermon would be better. Yeah, I'll jump to that in a moment. And we do still preach, once a month. And we also, even our pastors say, listen to this sermon by so-and-so, listen to this sermon by so-and-so. Anything we hear, we're not like anti-sermon. It's just that we have thousands and thousands of amazing sermons online now. First time in history we've had anything like this. I don't think the weakness in the church is, I need one more sermon. And so I'm not against it. We definitely do it. And we encourage people to listen to messages, but we definitely emphasize people get alone with the Word of God, and let's teach you how to get in the Word, and let's teach one another, and let's teach you how to teach others how to get in the Word.
So within We Are Church, another thing we often talk about is that there's no real programs and set age-based ministries or things like that. And so how do you approach children? And how do you answer people who push for like a more formal ministry for children? Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not anything we're against. I just know as a former youth pastor and as a former pastor and just as a dad, I think, again, I don't want to make this like a biblical absolute. The only biblical absolute is that parents are supposed to teach their children all the time. And I know that sometimes I even got weird to where I didn't even know how to teach my own kids and just figured out their Sunday school teacher will teach them this. And I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's just, they'll get it from, it's almost like if you send them to a Christian school, it's like, the Christian school teacher will teach them that. And the command is for the parents to talk about it. And so we try really hard to get the parents to do this and disciple the parents and teach. I remember as a youth pastor, parents used to get mad at me when their kid was messed up. And I'm like, you're the one that messed them up. You're trying to get me to fix your child, like it's you, it's your example. And I always thought, gosh, if I was ever like a real pastor, I would, just get on the parents because they're undoing the things I was teaching them. And the parents still are that number one influence. With the children, it's also, there's a lot of freedom in the churches depending on who's there and how the Spirit leads. Sometimes, again, we de-emphasize that 1 hour, like, okay, this is the 1 hour Bible teaching. No, I have other people that teach my kids whenever they see them. And it's awesome. They have all these like aunts and uncles. And when I see other people's kids, I'll try to, influence them somehow. And it's just this ongoing relationship. And yet there's other home groups where like the leaders, they'll take turns teaching the kids. Other times, like I have a daughter who's 13. She'll teach the younger kids certain times. Other times we'll have them sit in. It just varies, but we de-emphasize that 1 hour as though that is everything. And we want to get them at a point where they have so many aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters in the body, and examples for them to follow. And so, for example, my son, he brought his science teacher to our gathering, and I asked the science teacher, like, wow, how'd you get here? He goes, well, I had the kids fill out a survey on the first day of class, and I just asked, who's your role model? And he says, your son wrote, there's so many godly men in my church, I can't just pick one. Like, they're all models to me. And he's reading this, like, this public school, like, what is he talking about? But that was just from my 12-year-old perspective, like, gosh, these guys, I look up to so many of them. And it's awesome having that many guys that I want him to look up to, that are examples to him, and he really follows them. That carries them on in life. And then when they graduate out of high school, nothing changes. They're used to this, they always have people they look up to and people below them that they teach. And it's been a good thing, but there's a lot of variety, and I don't want to make a command of something that's not commanded. But we work hard to try to make parents understand that they're responsible, and I'm not going to lie, it's difficult sometimes with kids when you are used to just putting them all in the other room. It's like, I can relax. I have no responsibility. No, and it's difficult when you're used to order in your home and others are not used to it and just let their kids hit yours or whatever. And you're just seeing it, and you're trying to help the parents, like, no, it's okay to discipline. It's actually biblical, and help them change their worldview of just understanding there is sin in our hearts, and we do have to help them through it, and to just model for them parenting in your own home.
And often there's a lot of time and energy and money spent on the Sunday worship experience. It's a big thing that we've seen, and a lot of us been a part of that. And so, do you have any thoughts on that, and on just the focus that we can so often put on something that we put on the tradition side of the board?
Yeah, it's been, even though it's only been 5 years since we started church, I feel like it's been so long since I've made decisions based upon finances that I almost don't even remember those days. Like, we never think about money. Like, it's just a non-issue. Unless there's a need around the world and we're just like, hey, we got to give a bunch to this. Let's try to raise X amount of dollars. But we made decisions, not 100% on finances, but there was always some percentage in there with every decision we made, because it just takes money to run a church. But when it doesn't take money to run a church, like, that's just never in your mind. It's the most freeing thing. And I know even that's one of the questions that's always asked, well, how are we all going to make a living? How this, how that? And it's like, I know. If we do this, then we won't be able to pay the bills for this. And I'm like, I know. And I don't know how to answer all those things. All I can say is, until money was off the table, I didn't realize how much it influenced our decisions every week as a church. And oh gosh, it's just, it's very freeing, and money can be such a distraction.